Okay, now recording. Hi everyone, I'm Sydney Starkey. I'm president of the Chico State Nursing Club. I just wanted to kind of start off with saying that while we wish that every single student who was enrolled in pre-nursing could do or transfer into nursing and graduate with a BSN, there's just not that availability. Unfortunately, there's only 40 students accepted a semester, which I'm sure you guys all are aware of. And so I just want to reiterate that sometimes people start out at Chico State and then they end up pursuing nursing down different paths and end up very happy and excited about their choice. So the people that I invited, which I'll introduce in a little bit, are students who started out as either pre-nursing or public health at Chico State and then ended up transferring to a different school, and now they're becoming nurses. So I also wanted to quickly mention the Health and Human Services website. Have any of you heard of that from Julie or any of the meetings, I guess, or advising sessions? The Health and Human Services, oh, sorry. Does everyone?
We haven't, no.
Okay, so really quickly, I'm gonna show you guys. So in the new application, if you've reviewed the point system, which I'm sure a lot of you have, they're allotting additional points to students who graduate with a Health and Human Services degree. So it's a degree, for example, child development is considered a Health and Human Services degree. Exercise physiology is one of those degrees. And if you graduate with that degree, you can actually get more points towards your application for applying to nursing school at Chico State. So there's a committee of professors, and me and Brooke have been sitting in on these.
Language arts first or math first?
Anywho, me and Brooke have been sitting in on these meetings, and so if you go to the Health and Human Services website,
just got it.
and go to the department section,
So
it'll bring up all of the majors that you can be dual enrolled in. So you can be a pre-nursing major and a child development major.
Can you go to 318?
And if you don't end up getting into nursing school within the time you want, you can still pursue a different major, graduate with that degree, and then apply it to your nursing application if you choose to apply to nursing school after you graduate. So the website, I think it's just Health and Human Services at Chico State. Let me stop sharing. And they're coming out with, there's a student and the professors, including Julie and Karen, are coming out with pathways. So basically, they're going to be individual PDFs for each major, and it outlines by semester what classes you can take to fulfill not only pre-nursing requirements, but also a different majors requirement. So everyone stays on track to graduate with a degree. So I know that was a lot of information very quickly. If you have more questions about it, please feel free to email us or contact the club through social media. You can also ask Julie about it. She knows all about it. She's in the committee. And you can also go on the website to look at it. So it's a great new service. This didn't happen when I was a pre-nursing student. There was no such thing as being like dual enrolled in classes. It was kind of like you did all your pre-nursing prerequisites, and then hopefully, you kind of come up with a backup major potentially, or maybe people didn't have backups and dropped out of Chico State. So this is a really cool new thing that they're working on. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, so without further ado, hold on, I'm gonna do it for the speaker view. I would like each of our guests to introduce themselves. And I'm thinking, I have a list of pre-recorded questions, and I'm thinking we can go in order of Natasha answers, or no, I'm saying that wrong. Nastasia? Is that what I'm saying? No, Natasha. Nastasia. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've been calling you Natasha.
You're fine. You're fine.
I'm so sorry. Nastasia, Kathy, Caitlin, and then Katie. So can each of you introduce your name and then your schools, kind of how long it's taking you to graduate, and why you chose to pursue nursing.
Okay. I'm Nastasia Wright. I currently attend Samuel Merritt University in Oakland, California. I attended Chico 2016 through 2018, and then I transferred to Samuel Merritt in January of 2019, and my program is 2 years, so I will be graduating December 9th of this year. I chose nursing because I love the patient care part of it. I think after going through all my clinical rotations and my preceptorship, I definitely got to see more of the patient care side instead of just the lecture side of nursing. So being able to actually interact with patients has definitely helped a lot, being able to take care of all 4 patients. And I love it still.
Great. All right, and then Kathy.
Yeah, so my name's Kathy. I also started off 2016. I was actually a SI instructor for physiology for my freshman year through my sophomore year. So I don't think I recognize.
You're so old at this point.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, I feel old. But yeah, so I was Sydney's SI, and we did tutoring together. But anyways, I transferred to San Diego State. Yeah, when I applied to nursing school. And then the reason why I went into nursing was I really liked the sciences, but I also liked, I wanted to go to med school, but then I realized that doctors really don't have that patient interaction as much as nurses do. And so with that, I was able to combine like my knowledge in like science and build on that, and then also have that patient care interaction. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. And then Caitlin, you're next.
Hi, everybody. Sorry if my voice sounds weird. I don't have COVID, but I actually got tested because I was scared. Anyway, so my name is Caitlin. I went to Chico State in 2016 fall and finished in 2018 spring. And then I transferred to West Coast University, Anaheim. There are a few, if anyone has questions about that later. It took me 2 years, and then I graduated November 20th. And the reason why I went into nursing, well, both my mom and sister are nurses, so it's kind of in my blood, but also since a little girl, I've always had a passion for taking care of others, babysitting, stuff like that. And now I just still want to have patient care, and yeah, so.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Katie.
Hello. Sorry, I just got off work.
No, thank you so much.
So I went to Chico State. You guys feel old, but I went in 2015. And then spring 2017, I transferred to Dominican University in San Rafael in the Bay Area. And then that was a 3-year program, and I graduated in May. And since then, I have 2 jobs as a nurse. I work as a disaster community health nurse, kind of doing medical assistant, like pop-up clinics to help the homeless. And then I also am a care team nurse at the Occidental Health Center. And I just went into nursing because I actually went to Chico and declared, and then did all this stuff and transferred. And I think the main thing that stood out for nursing was just the patient connection that you get. And I love anything health related. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to skip to, did any of you apply to Chico State's nursing program before deciding to transfer, or was it always in your game plan to transfer, starting with Nastasia?
I did apply to the Chico State Nursing Program before I applied to Samuel Merritt, but due to like my T scores and not having enough points, I thought it would be best to look back home since I'm from the Bay Area at other nursing programs. So then that's when I decided to apply to Samuel Merritt, like very last minute, but I got in time, so it worked out.
Yes, definitely did. And then Kathy?
Yeah, so before I go into where I just don't let anything discourage you, because I had so many people tell me you're not going to get in. It's super competitive, and like wherever you go, it will be like okay. But my background, I did apply to Chico State and San Diego State and Long Beach. My original plan was kind of to transfer, but I wasn't unsure. But then I applied and I had the two choices, and I'm from SoCal, so I thought for me personally it would be beneficial to work in the hospitals down here, because that's where I would potentially want to go after I'm done graduating. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Caitlin.
So my first intention was I wanted to stay at one school, and I'm sure some of you can relate. Like, I want to stay at one school, I want to finish college at one school. And then the first year, then going to my second, I started noticing I was getting really homesick. So in the back of my mind, I was like, I really want to get into Chico State's nursing program. I had a great mentor through it all, but then something was just telling me that, I belonged at home. And then I applied, and the T's killed me. I took that probably 4 or 5 times, I think. That's when we could take it, as many times as we want. And then right when I found out I didn't get in, I called my mom right away, and she had already started talking to the people at my school. And this is something I can touch on later, but my school is term-based. I could have started a term that June. So I finished at Chico in May, and I could have started that June, but I did wait till August. So that's kind of my journey.
Yes. Thank you. And then Katie.
So I kind of have a weird situation. Because I was undeclared, I had done no research on nursing, like getting your degree before going to college. Like, I had no idea how hard it was, how much steps there were. And so I actually, while I was doing my prereqs, I did them every semester, and I was looking at going to Chico, and I was like, yeah, I'll just go to Chico. And same thing, everyone was like, oh, it's so hard, you're not going to get in, takes multiple tries. So I actually never took the T's, because the school I applied for, Dominican, doesn't require it. And I could also, because I was actually a semester behind in my science prereqs while I was at Chico, the other thing that was great was Dominican, I could take microbio during my first semester of nursing school there. So I have kind of weird situation where that was the only school I applied for. I kind of just threw out an application and just was talking one-on-one with an advisor there, and then was able to start like August 2017.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and I think I should also be noted that all of these ladies are going to be fantastic nurses. And just because I had backups and was fully willing to transfer to pursue nursing. And I'm very thankful that it ended up working out after I didn't get in my first time. But there's no shame in looking into other options to pursue nursing, or even delaying getting your nursing degree until after you graduate with a different type of degree. I just want to continue to reiterate that, because I know it's so hard, and I know you're, kind of hearing all these things about how hard it is to get into, and that's very true, but it's not impossible if you're willing to put in the work and do some research. So thank you, ladies. Okay, so were there any additional classes for any of you? And I don't know if Katie had touched on that, but any additional classes you needed to take before transferring or before starting your program at your new school?
Yes, I attended the community college in my town, which is called Chabot Community College, and I had to take lifespan psychology, another English class, world history, a culture class, and then a philosophy class, an extra philosophy class on top of the one I took at Chico State. But after I took those classes, I applied. I had already applied to my program, but I was still taking those classes, but that was fine to have them in progress.
Okay, so did you do all those classes in one semester before starting at Samuel Merritt?
No, after I left Chico State in May, I signed up for those classes right before I left in May. So I was taking them during the summer, 3 of them during the summer, and then I took 3 during the fall, waiting to get my application acceptance. And having those in progress was okay with my school.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that should be noted. Different schools, depending on where you're looking for applying, they might have different rules regarding whether you can have certain classes in progress or not. So on that note, Kathy, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know,
Yes.
yeah, you just,
Yeah. So San Diego State, to apply, you have to have your 4 sciences completed. So I took summer, winter, summer, winter. So I was like full time. So when it came to apply, I had those 4 sciences done. So as long as it was done by the end of fall 2020, or like, oh my gosh, as long as it was done by that fall that you were applying, then you were okay, but you couldn't have it being done in the spring. But then going off of that, because I did that, I took a semester to kind of relax before going into nursing school. So I finished my upper divisions. And because it's a Cal State, most of them transferred, and I only had to take a writing class at San Diego State, but other than that, everything pretty much transferred. So yeah.
thank you. And then Caitlin.
Okay, so mine might sound kind of confusing, and if anybody is interested in West Coast, Sydney, I don't mind if anyone reaches out to me because it might sound a little weird. So we are term-based, and we go year-round. So we're not semesters, we're not quarters, you know, we don't have a summer break, we don't have a spring break. It's just a constant thing. So we have terms, and they're about 10 weeks. So I didn't have to take any additional classes. So I stopped in Chico in May, started in August. But before, this is going for any student, if you have all your prereqs done, if you don't have all your prereqs done, they require you to take 2 terms before starting like core nursing. So the first term of that included a first year seminar, and everyone has to take this. And then in addition to that, I had to take a critical reasoning class and an English class. But what was nice is I already had to take this term. So it wasn't like I was adding any extra time, you know. It was a bummer because I feel like, don't you guys feel like you took like a million English classes at Chico? I don't know. But
I feel like I took a million like writing intensives and philosophy classes, which I was terrible at.
I had to restart, even though it was Cal State, they made me take their writing test.
Yeah.
And if you didn't pass, then you had to take class. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I just needed one more writing intensive and I was done. And they're like, nope. I was like, cool.
And then, so that was fine. But then, in the next term before I started core nursing was when I took pathophysiology in capstone. So I think at Chico's, Sydney, patho is in what, the 2nd semester?
Yeah, that's like our main hard, like people are scared of that class course. And
so that one for us is before you start like nursing completely. So I took pathophysiology and a capstone class. Now this isn't like your capstone at the end of nursing school. This is it kind of like you write about like a disease process or something like that. But no matter what, West Coast University, you will take 2 terms before you start the actual core nursing. So
nice, thank you. I feel like you explained that really well, actually.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
And then Katie.
So like I said, I was very unprepared going into nursing. So I didn't take any sciences my first semester at Chico, which I regret because when I was a sophomore at Chico, so for Dominican, they require chem and OChem because all their like traditional students do like a kind of chem/OChem during one semester. So anyways, when I was applying there, I realized I was gonna have to have an OChem. So I took anatomy and OChem and 3 other classes during the same semester, which was horrible. But I survived, and I do not recommend that. That's why I look into all your options and try to get that all, because that was something I regret, was not researching. But like that being said, I did also have to take a like upper division English class at Dominican, but I had to take an upper division ethics course before. It could be in progress, but before like starting. And then I also had to take an art course, which kind of threw off like my scheduling during my last 2 semesters while I was trying to apply to other programs, just because it kind of takes up space in your schedule. But I just really recommend looking at all the places you're applying to and making sure you have them, because a lot, especially some of the smaller schools or private schools, if you apply to, have like totally different standards. But you can sometimes make it work because they are different, like different classes. They kind of accept what they want to accept. So you kind of have to push on them.
Definitely. Yeah, just be prepared and know who to talk to. I remember you doing, I think we were in anatomy together.
Yeah, we were.
And you were like killing it in my view. So
yeah, I got strep throat 3 times during that semester.
wow, that's great. That's great. Gosh. Okay, so on the note of other programs, did any of you ladies look at other programs beyond the school you transferred to, Chico State? I know Kathy had applied to Long Beach. Any other schools you looked into?
I only applied to Samuel Merritt. I was looking into a Dominican also, but I didn't have time to take organic chem. So then I was like, okay, well, Samuel Merritt was my only option at the moment. So I just decided to apply to their program. Plus, it's a private school, so that kind of opened up more as an option. And they accept 64 students. So that widened up how many students they take as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I also was looking at Samuel Merritt. And then I also was looking at just like out of state places. There's lots of options for out of state, but that was kind of on the back burner. If I didn't get into somewhere, I kind of gave myself like 2 semesters. And if I don't get in, then I'll broaden my, like, where I would want to go. And I was looking at Oregon and Idaho and Nevada.
Thank you. Kathy, did I get you pretty much Long Beach and then the other 2?
Sorry, I heard my parents were speaking, but yeah, those 3 were the only ones that I applied to. Yeah.
And then Caitlin.
Yeah, West Coast was the only one. My mom was very adamant about getting me in as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And that was probably when she did a lot of the research. Props to her. But that I could get in the quickest with like the least amount of extra work to do kind of thing. Just because I was like overwhelmed in a lot of things. But yeah, there wasn't too many extra requirements. So I think that's why she ended up going and pushing West Coast.
Definitely. And it being close to home. I know that was huge for you.
Huge.
So did all of your guys' applications require, other than just the nursing program application, did it require a separate application where you needed to be admitted into the university first, if that makes sense? For the pre-nursing students who aren't familiar, usually if you're looking to transfer to a school, you have to be accepted into their university before you can be accepted into their nursing program. So did any of you experience that, kind of have to fill out 2 applications to be eligible to transfer?
Yeah, so for I'm pretty sure all of the Cal States you have to do that. So you'll apply as if you were gonna transfer the fall semester, so like what you guys did when you originally applied to colleges. And then after that, at least for San Diego State, I completed that in January. I got an email with the supplemental application, and it was just like your T-scores and all that kind of thing. And then but they say like you have to get into the school first until you get into the program, but realistically, at least for like San Diego State, you can't get into the school and then change your major too. But yeah, it wasn't anything complex other than it was kind of a hassle that you did have to apply to like the Cal State system, and then on top of that, then do the other application. So yeah.
Definitely. So it's just something to look out for in terms of deadlines. I know in the Cal State system, typically oh my gosh, it's been like 500 years since I applied to college, but
I just looked at it. It's like October through November or something like that. Yeah. So just, yeah.
Yeah, just for those deadlines. Okay, thank you. So, TEAS is obviously a huge in my experience, it was a huge obstacle for me, and I know a lot of people experience that. And now they're limiting the amount of times you can attempt to take the T's. So my kind of question, I guess, is related to that, in that I know some of you already said this, but did your school require the T's test? And if so, was there a minimum score or like a competitive score that students usually aimed for? And was there a limit at that school you transferred at? Just kind of any information you may remember.
For my school at the time, they required the HESI and not the T's. So the HESI is another version. Well, it's not another version, but it's just another test besides the T's. And it's about, they have parts for math, reading, English, and then science. And then for our school, they said that like to be competitive, it need to be like in the 80s. So that was the test. I think now that COVID is a thing, they're letting people take the T's as well. But the HESI was the one that I had to take to get in. And you could take that, I think, as many times as you wanted until you got the score that you needed to get.
Awesome. That's great information. Thank you. And then Kathy.
Yeah, so my schools did require the T's because all the ones that were all Cal States. And I took it twice. And the first time I did, actually 3 times. The first time I did absolutely horrible. I just went in blind. Second time I kind of studied and I did okay. And then third time I was back down. So I was like, that's it. I'm very bad at standardized testing. So I always knew that that was kind of going to be an obstacle for me. But yeah, that was kind of my experience. And I didn't think I would get into San Diego State with that. I got an 86, so not anything crazy high. Like, it's pretty average, you know. So I was very shocked when I did, but you know, just put your mind to it.
No, you're killing it. And I think San Diego State is also a direct admit nursing program, right? So usually students who enter as a freshman, they're going to graduate with a bachelor's in nursing too. So that's
Yeah.
another element I know possibly to transferring in. But
Yeah, and if you like get into the school and you decide to change your major to nursing, you can't do that, but you can transfer. And they just recently started accepting transfers, but yeah.
there you go. Awesome. And then who I met, Caitlin.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, just a warning. Anything I say, things are always subject to change of schools. I'm sure you guys all
Yeah,
understand.
especially with COVID, it's all.
Yes. Yes. And I know, especially, yeah, my school is getting a lot more. I mean, even just people in like my community have all been jumping on West Coast opportunity because their requirements are way less. For example, I did not have to take the T's again, but okay, before I got in, the first year seminar that I was talking about, this is kind of like a to get your foot in the waters for nursing school kind of class. Very basic. You only meet a couple times. Most of it's online. They did have us take the T's in the class, but it was not a competitive thing. It wasn't for points. It wasn't for anything. I think you had to get maybe like a 58%. It was something crazy low. Yeah, so it was just something to like kind of gauge where you are for standardized testing, nothing to be worried about. And I think that's what attracted me a lot about that school is that I wouldn't have to retest T's because I took that way too many times and I was so exhausted, you know. So yeah, that was a very big highlight about my school for sure.
Awesome, thank you. And then Katie, I think you pretty much covered it. Your school didn't require it at all, right?
Yeah, my school didn't require it. I didn't even take it because I was applying to Dominican kind of like a semester before I was applying to any other schools that I had done the requirements for. So they don't require it at all, which was great because I was a horrible test taking student until going to nursing school. I think nursing school kind of builds you into that standardized test taker. But yeah, they don't require it. It's a lot more personal things that they require. Like you have to have letters of rec, some like personal statements, of course, not just for application to the school. You need a personal statement for that, of course, but like one that about why you would be a nurse and like be a good nurse and all that. So it's a lot more like personal things you have to complete. for your application.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I guess let's get into something a little more fun. Can you guys describe kind of like how your school outlines their course content, maybe how many semesters or terms or quarters, however your school does it, it takes to complete all of the nursing specific stuff, and then just like what your favorite class has been, because everyone's like basically done with your guys' degree.
So my school is 2 years, which is 4 semesters. The first semester, well, the fun part, clinical is the fun part. So we had psychiatric clinicals. So usually like you're in a psych hospital somewhere in the Bay Area. Second semester is med surg. So you're at some hospital on like a cardiac unit, tele unit, renal unit, or you can be on all 4 of those units, or oncology, something like that. Third semester, you're in maternity, peds, and critical care. So you'll be with the babies, you'll be with the moms, postpartum, you'll be in step down ICU, you'll be in ICU or IICU or ED. And then last semester, you're in your preceptorship or capstone. I guess it could be either one for whatever school you're at. And that's when you're paired with a nurse, and you're basically learning how to be a nurse with that nurse, and you can take on their whole patient load and do everything that a nurse does, and it's a lot of fun. My favorite class probably was critical care and also patho. I loved learning about all the medications. We took two different pathos. So we took one our first semester and then another patho our second semester. So they split it up. So I think that was my favorite class, learning about all the medications.
Oh my gosh, that's bold. I struggle with medications. Kathy, you're next.
I felt that. I hated farm so. So it's kind of weird because San Diego State is direct entry, so you end up being with sophomores that are starting their nursing classes. And so theirs is 4 years, and then if you're a transfer, they say it's 3 years. And they were like, you can't accelerate, like, well, but I was like, I literally had no other classes to take, so I talked, and they just say that to scare you. But anyways, 5 semesters, that's what I'm finishing in December. And you start off with psych as well. Well, you start off with client assessment, and then your fundamentals of nursing. So we didn't do that on site. We did it in the sim lab. And then med surg was my first one. And then after you do med surg, we don't have it where it's incorporated into ours, but you can apply to be in a preceptorship. So I applied for a preceptorship and got on a med surg floor for the next semester. And then that next semester I had to double up in order to graduate a semester early. So I did OB and peds together. And then now I'm in my last semester and I'm doing critical care and community health. And then, yeah, that's it. And my favorite class would be critical care. I think I eventually want to be ICU nurse. Definitely start off on a PCU.
I think I can see that.
Thank you.
Kathy's gonna be with like the extra sick ones for sure. All right, Caitlin.
Okay, so again, I could go into more detail about this. I just want to I have this schedule because I forget, you finish nurse school and it's like, whoosh.
Yeah, you kind of like blacked out parts of the stressful experience and you're like, I'm done.
So obviously there's online classes incorporated with all these, but you first do funds, then you have intro to med surg, then mental health, then like med surg 2, I guess. I don't know what you call it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's OB, then peds. Those actually used to be combined at my school, and then they realized it was way too much because, we're only in 10 weeks. So you were learning peds and OB in 4 weeks, which is nuts. So they split those up. Then you get into public health, then you do advanced med surg, and then integrations. I don't know if any of you guys have integrations, but I think that is something that now reflecting on nursing school was the best part of nursing school. Basically, it's The preceptorships kind of got thrown off because of COVID. So you kind of were in just like a regular rotation. I ended up getting lucky and I got on an L&D unit, which is something I really like in addition to peds, but so every week you'll cover one subject. So like week 1's fundamentals, and then up until week 8 or 9 is, critical care. And then you take these exams every week and you have to like benchmark, and then we have an exit exam at the end of it. And reflecting, it prepared me so much for the NCLEX, and that is definitely a highlight of my school. That like,
I think you might be cutting out a little bit. Yeah, the highlight of your school. I have a friend who went to, I think she graduated the term before you, who went to West Coast and had referenced that your guys' prep, like in your last semester leading up to the NCLEX, is really stellar. So that's awesome. Okay, and then
if that's
that's important. All of nursing school is to prep you for the NCLEX, but that is special. They do that for you. And then Katie.
So mine's kind of similar to Kathy's. It's all the freshmen, like traditional students, become nursing students their sophomore, like 1 semester. So it's a 3-year program, and I had so many extra units. And so I actually ended up just taking on a minor, and a lot of the transfers do. Like you can take a minor in management, leadership. I took one in public health. My friend took one in psychology, just to be full-time and to just have something else under your degree. But the first semester is no patient care. It's all labs, sim labs, fundamentals, all that fun jazz. And then your sophomore 2 is med-surg 1. And, we got to go to some great hospitals in the Bay Area, and then geriatric. And then the third semester is OB and peds. And then med-surg 2 is more like telefloor and cardiac med-surg. And then we also got to do a community health rotation and a psych rotation during that semester, I think. And then we do med-surg 3, which is emergency care and ICU rotation. So you hopefully be at like somewhere, like I was at a trauma hospital, which was great ER experience, and then ICU experience, and then you precept. And so I precepted last semester before I graduated, and I actually precepted in the ICU at Kaiser in the Bay Area. It was a great experience. I loved it. I personally don't want to work in a hospital, so I actually was grateful that I got that experience working in an ICU and managing 2 patients that are very, very ill. But my favorite semester or part of nursing school was my community health rotation and working as a street medical team nurse, and that's what I'm doing now. So
That's awesome.
Totally different than anyone else. But if you kind of realize you don't like the hospital, like there's so many other options out there, and you can always ask me questions, because I do a lot. Like today at work, I do a lot. Like I do a lot of infusions and injections and med care and a lot of stuff, but it's a lot more different outside of a hospital.
Definitely. So on the topic of like your classes and everything, and I know you guys are Katie's like done, and Katie and Caitlin, are done. But how did your school handle, and how did you guys move forward with the virus coming in, what was it, March? It was after our spring break. I know that everything got flipped. How did your school handle that? And then I know everything's day by day, but do you know any information on how your school's proceeding, whether it be online and, whether you're still doing some in-person stuff?
So at the beginning, like in March, we got kicked out of our clinicals so that all the hospitals could kind of figure out what they're going to do. And then by the time we started our last semester, things were better. So in August, we did get placed for preceptorships, and I did get placed on an ICU step down people who were placed for like L&D and peds did have to wait a little bit longer because those units were a little bit more particular with letting students on the units. But for the most part, all of our classes are online. If you're in med-surg, they do have their labs still on campus, but it's a certain amount of students at a time, certain amount of instructors at a time. And same with first semesters, they also have their labs on campus and their sims on campus. But they aren't letting them go to their psych clinical because psychs are closed right now. But other than that, we are continuing with online/hybrid learning for the next year. But clinical rotations have been okay. Everyone except for the first semesters have been able to go to their clinical rotations, whether you're in med-surg, critical care, or preceptorships or community health too.
That's awesome. And then Kathy.
Yeah, so the way, I'm not sure if I think that's how others, I think Chico's is different. But the way we do our clinicals, it's an every week thing. So since you start in the beginning of the semester, you're there for like the whole 16 weeks. So when it happened in March, we got kicked off, and so we went online. And then when we came back, instead of doing the whole semester, they basically split the semester. So they had the clinical groups, and then they did group A and group B. And so then group A went to clinicals first while group B was online. And then as soon as the 6-week mark went, then they flipped. And so that allowed for everyone to get clinical time. And then during the online portion of it, we're basically doing like certifications for like stroke care and just like different things that have really vamped up my resume and like portfolio and stuff. So yeah, I think just like the fundamentals that was never in the clinics in the clinical setting to begin with. But the sim labs, the freshmen and everyone that goes into there, they have to get tested every week through like SDSU, and so that's how they're kind of handling that aspect of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. And then Caitlin.
Okay, so we got kicked out in the middle of our peds term, so I did get 2 rotations in, and then we went straight to online. And then ever since March until I started my last term, integrations, no one was going to clinical at all. And so how they're working it now, people are starting to go in, but the priority is the people in their final term, so seniors. And then basically if there's more room, then it will go to like the next, which is like the advanced med surge group, and it kind of just trickles down. I never got to go since March. I have not gotten to go back in to do skills lab, sim, everything's been online, but they were very efficient and quick and figured out what we could do to substitute our hours. For example, for public health term, we were able to volunteer, and I volunteered through something called the Power of One Foundation. It's pretty popular now. I don't know if anyone's heard of it in SoCal. And I was able to complete all my hours doing that. And it's nice, giving back to the community. And also, I didn't work during nursing school at like a hospital or anything, but if you worked as a CNA or a health aide or something, that could count actually as your clinical hours. So
fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah. So definitely something I would say, who knows with the virus right now, but
the boards take that as your hours, like the BRN.
That's what they said. It had to get a BRN for them to do it.
You're a nurse now, so they definitely did, but
I know. I know, exactly.
That's shocking. I haven't heard of that from other schools that they
it was a big issue, but my school's very diligent, and they were making sure, and like you had to send them in and get them approved. But definitely if anyone is considering getting a job and they're on the edge about it, I would highly recommend it in case you land somewhere where we'll accept it. Plus, getting experience is getting experience, and who knows how the virus will pan out. So I highly recommend, if you're on the fence about getting a job, to get one for sure. For the experience.
And then Katie.
So I was during the shutdown, I was precepting at Kaiser, which is, I don't know if any other people had done clinicals at Kaisers, but Kaisers are like the strictest of the strict. Like if they shut down, like they don't take students before every other hospital. And so I actually was like at the hospital when we like got the email, because I was doing knock. Anyways, I finished my hours, thankfully, because I did enough hours in January and February. So I had made like the 75% of like what the hours were supposed to be for your preceptorship. And then Dominican kind of did the same thing. Like they kind of came back really quickly with other options. And so some students who got kicked out of hospitals were doing telehealth with like seniors or like people living on their own that need like med care or anything at all. And then as the hospital slowly took back people, Dominican took people who had like not preceptored at all or like only had a few hours and put them in hospitals, and everyone finished out. And I don't think any other semesters went back before then. But now this semester, everyone's doing clinicals at all the hospitals. And I know that I was grateful that I got my hours done. And then I could also focus on the NCLEX because Dominican does like NCLEX prep class every semester. So you actually are prepping for it. So I got to just focus on that and not have to do my preceptorship anymore. But I think that they're still doing the telehealth, which I think is a good thing as well. But I'm just glad I got my hours done and got my degree, to be honest.
No,
It was like I was stressing if I didn't get to graduate in May. I was freaking out.
Yeah, I know the prior fifth semesters, not the current ones, the ones who graduated in May as well, everyone was stirring with what they would do. But this is awesome to hear because there are nursing schools who have completely halted their nursing education and like delayed people's graduation. So that's something that I think is important to look into if you're looking to transfer to a school. I know some of you may still be really young in college, so who knows what happens, but for now it doesn't look like as though this virus is going anywhere. So something to think about. And so my last question before I leave it kind of open to anyone is, what was it like adjusting to your new school? Was it particularly hard? Jackson, oh my gosh. Was it particularly difficult, like leaving what you had established in Chico? Do you have any kind of words of wisdoms for students who are thinking about transferring for whatever the reason may be?
I had a difficult time leaving Chico because I was gonna miss my roommate and all my friends, of course, Caitlin. But me and my roommate both decided to end up going home. I was gonna go home obviously for the nursing program, and she was gonna go home for her reasons as well. So that made it a little bit easier. And then some of my friends were also gonna be moving as well, so it was a little bit easier that way. My school is a commuting school, so it was pretty easy to get used to how to like manage my life around being at Samuel Merritt. I'm only 30 minutes away from my school, so like commuting isn't that bad with traffic. And most of the people in my class are closer to my age, so a lot of us usually would stay up at the library and hang out and study there. We do have a library and a gym and some other things at the campus. So when they were open, we were allowed to do that, and that kind of helped the transition a little bit better. Some words of, was that the only question? Sorry.
Yeah, no. And then I guess.
And then words of wisdom.
Pieces of advice.
Okay. And then words of wisdom, I would just say go for it. At first I was nervous about transferring out of Chico because I did want to stay at one college, but I'm glad that I did apply for Samuel Merritt, and now I'm going to be graduating in 6 days. So I'm like very excited that I took the chance, and there's 64 spots at the school, so there's a lot of chances. They don't just base it off of your test scores. There's a lot of other things like personal statements, reference letters, and a bunch of other stuff that they go off of. So definitely take your chances. They do have an ABSN program, so if you do get a degree and come back, they have an ABSN program 3 times a year. And then my BSN program is 2 times a year. So there's definitely chances there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Kathy.
Yeah, so my first year, I absolutely hated Chico, at least my first semester. After my second semester, I joined a sorority, and that kind of tied it in for me and like making friends. But then I was still kind of iffy. I was personal reasons. I was doing like long distance. And then my second year came around and I loved it. And then I was hit with, oh, you got accepted to San Diego State. So my life kind of, I was literally had a
Still
lease.
too, right? You were accepted. You were accepted to
Yeah.
Chico State's nursing program and San Diego State, so you had
Yeah.
an option. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was kind of like, I remember the moment very vividly. I was packing to leave from Chico. I already had a lease signed for the next semester. And so I had to get out of that. But yeah. And so then I decided to go, and because of my sorority, I was able to transfer, and that's how I kind of got to adjust as well. But it definitely was very hard because I went going from like a small town, like college town, to like this huge school where everyone doesn't really know everyone like Chico. So that was hard adjusting, but I was closer to home, which made it easier. And I had a really close friend that went there, so that also made it easier. But I was always very about the full college experience, like as a whole, like being balanced in both your social and your school life. So going to like a 4-year university was always like kind of in my plans. So one thing I would give an advice is like, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. I know there's been fear of like, oh, don't do this because you won't have time for all of these things. But if you set your priorities, like you can definitely do it. Like I'm an example, like I had my spare fun in college and I also got into nursing school. So it is so doable. Don't let anyone tell you not. No,
Yeah,
otherwise.
exactly. You were such an inspiration to me when we worked together because, well, things are different with COVID, so please keep that in mind, everyone. But I remember thinking that I wouldn't be able to do like Greek life stuff or whatever, and Kathy was like, "What are you talking about? Like, you can just do it. Like, you're fine." And then it ended up being like really fun for me personally. So.
Yeah, it's definitely like what you personally want out of school, but I just knew that that's what I wanted, and you can do it. Yeah.
And you're doing it. You're almost done with it. Oh.
I know, it's crazy.
And then Caitlin.
Okay, so I think for my personal situation, again, I'm kind of starting the advice in the beginning, kind of like you guys have all said. It really depends on you and your situation. You cannot base it off of anybody else's experience. And I'm telling you that you got to be selfish sometimes and just really evaluate your family life, your social life, what your priorities are. My priority was to be home with my family. I have a younger brother who I help out with a lot. And with my school, the adjustment was actually fairly easy. The West Coast also used Blackboard, so I was super comfortable with Blackboard from Chico. I loved the fast pace. You know, we go 10 weeks, you have a short break, then you get right back onto the next term. I loved that intensity. You never really had time to zone out. And I don't know, I'm not good with like long summer breaks. I can get very lazy. So I think the adjustment part with West Coast was phenomenal. And the commute was like 35 minutes, and I think it was perfect. It improved my time management skills. It improved just like a lot. The one thing is, if you're looking for like a college campus, college experience, you're not going to get it at West Coast. It's one big building that doesn't even look like a college, you know. But my intention was to get in and get out of nursing school. You know, the 2 years at Chico was good for me. I enjoyed it, and then I went home and I had so much time for family, and I still had a ton of time for social life. As much as they say you'll be studying no, you will not be studying every minute of the day.
Unless you're like some robot, that's not.
Totally.
You'll have your mental breakdowns for sure,
No.
but you will be okay.
More than one.
Exactly. So I don't know. I just think for my specific situation, you know, school at that point, you know, 2 years I've done Chico State, I was ready to just buckle down and make that my priority. But, and then just biggest piece of advice is I would say your mental health and your self-care, because it definitely took a toll on me when I realized I was just putting school too much emphasis on that, not saying yes to plans, not saying, you know, consistently saying no. And then once I started being more open and realized, oh, wow, I can still do great. You know what I mean? Your own life and really just evaluating your own situation and not following anyone else's journey.
Thank you. That Yeah, I
might be
couldn't
cutting out.
have summarized anything better. Thank you. Thank you. And then Katie?
So it was extremely hard for me to leave Chico. I had like a huge close knit group of friends living, we all lived on the same block, like we shared driveway. It was amazing. And so it was really hard for me to leave, but um it my boyfriend stayed in Chico. So I actually had like that kind of connection to be able to like come up on the weekends, and like everyone else has said, you don't have to spend your whole weekend studying. So I felt like that was kind of my break and like my connection to stay with Chico a little bit, with like coming up every like once a month or whatever for certain things. But transferring, I was same thing. It's a small private school. It is very cute and college like, but it's tiny, and so it was really hard for me to adjust at the beginning. But they took, for some reason, my semester they took a huge influx of transfers because they didn't have that many traditional nursing students. So there was a bunch of us that were like on the same boat. Some came from SSU, some came from the local junior college, and we all kind of like formed a really close knit because we all had been in the same boat with like transferring and trying to get the right classes. And so I think having other transfers, which you'll have at any nursing school if you're transferring there, there's so many other ones that are in the exact same boat as you. And I think that made it a lot easier. And that was like my close knit group of friends when we were in nursing school. And you'll make really close friends with people you go to nursing school with, because you kind of have to struggle together and do clinicals and tests and everything. So I think just having that is great. And for words of wisdom, I'd probably just say, don't ever let anything stop you, because there's so many different ways to get into nursing. Like if you get your degree before, go back. If you decide, there's so many routes. And so I think not following this route that you're being told by like some advisor, just looking at all the different ways. Because a lot of my friends I were pre-nursing with at Chico, a lot of them are in nursing school, like master nursing schools. There's just a lot of different ways. And so I think just keep that in your mind about when you're going and applying to other schools.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, one of my best friends is pursuing her master's in nursing right now, and she's killing it. Absolutely killing it. So before we log off, are there any, I'm kind of reading from the chat. Are there any final questions from any of the students or officers? I have from Marissa: if I decide to apply to other college nursing programs, do I just keep taking Chico requirements, and how would I do that while also taking transfer school requirements? So I don't think any of us meant to alarm anyone with any extra classes. You're going to have to take upper division classes for Chico too. You will have extra classes that you need for your for your degree. Most of the classes, and especially within the CSU system, will transfer over. And so just make sure you're doing your research. I would look into the science classes. I know everyone thinks there's this short amount of time to finish your prerequisite classes, but that's not the case. I know with COVID things may be different, because I would generally recommend to look into summer courses. So if there are any community colleges where you're from that are offering summer courses, and for instance, OChem, whatever the writing requirement is, look into that. Focus, of course, on your undergraduate classes, because those are pretty much the same wherever you go. And then I would look at the science classes and just plan it out, be organized. I know that's very general. It's just, I feel it's hard for me to give advice when I really don't know how schools are handling COVID and whether they're offering summer classes, but just see if there are any places where you can take like those extra classes. But again, you shouldn't really have to look towards that. Focus on your classes right now for your, I'm assuming a lot of you guys are freshmen, or in your first year, focus on those classes and then worry about any extra classes that may be required later on. Because a lot of them should transfer over fine.
And I think that ties back into your path. So like you kind of know like what you want in a sense. So like if you're set on Chico, then focus on Chico. And then when the applications come, then you can start looking at like, okay, I could add this and this. It just kind of really depends on what you want. But yeah.
Okay. And then we have to take a summer science class or stack now to be on track. I usually don't recommend stacking science classes. You really want to perform well in your science classes. And as Katie had mentioned, it's extremely hard to do 2 science classes at once. So I'm so sorry. I know everything is so weird with it all being online, but I would just take it at your own pace if you have the luxury of maybe spending an extra semester taking classes. I'm graduating in 5 years, so there was a semester that I used to do all of those upper division requirements. If you have that ability, don't feel like you necessarily need to graduate in 4 years. Usually people graduate with nursing degrees in 4.5, 5 years, and maybe even longer depending on where your points sit. I know I can't say that to everyone because I realize that there are financial considerations. But if you have any specific classes on tracks, schedule with Julie, and then you can also use peer navigating too to get kind of specialized questions. Those students hopefully can be able to help you more than I am currently. Okay. Sorry, I know we're going a little bit over the time. Kathy, are you seeing
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I saw one question about CNA training while in school and how was it? And I did CNA training the summer of 2018, and I did through Red Cross from June to August. I just did a course, and it was really helpful. There was like a clinical rotation in the CNA course, so I got to be like at a SNF and learn like all the skills I need to know how to do to be a CNA. And now I currently work as a CNA at a hospital in the Bay Area. So that also helps now to add to my resume now that I'm getting closer to graduation, that I've worked at a hospital.
Yeah, I'd say generally speaking, people will take, in the people that I've talked to, they'll take their CNA course or EMT course or whatever over the summer. So I can't specifically speak to how that would stack up with your college classes. I would focus on your college classes before pursuing CNA EMT. And on our website, like the CSU Chico State or the Chico State Nursing Club's website, we have links that'll take you to websites that will list out available CNA and EMT and phlebotomy programs depending on your area. So take a look at that if you're interested and don't know where you can take a class, because they're essential workers, so they're still being trained, you know.
I have a little to touch on that. I totally forgot.
Go ahead.
I did CNA, I think, so if you guys are freshmen, I think like the summer before I started my sophomore year at Chico, and then I ended up getting a job with Butte Home Health and Hospice. I don't know if you guys know about that. Gosh, I totally blurred. But I absolutely fell in love with it. And if you have any specific questions, that was totally amazing. I know it got me like 1 point extra, which really didn't make a huge difference, but honestly, experiences a couple of points I would honestly rather take in the long run. And I got exposed to something that I never thought I would be into. I got exposed to hospice care, and it was life-changing. So if you guys have any questions about that.
Definitely.
Answer that question if you want me to, Cindy.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I did not work for points, but the way San Diego State's points work is 30 for GPA for prerequisite courses. So if you get 3.96 to 4.0, it's 30, and then so on. There's like a list. And then for the cumulative GPA, it's also 30 points. So whatever that is, you get 30 points down the line. And then you get 5 points for working 6 months of paid certified healthcare work experience. So whether that's a CNA, medical assistant, EMT, LVN, all of that. But one thing that I really liked about San Diego State, I'm not sure around the hospitals, like in different areas, but at least at San Diego, Sharp and Scripps are one of like the bigger hospitals here, and they're really huge on hiring nursing students. So once you get in, then after you finish your med surg, you apply. So I'm currently a nursing assistant at Sharp, and so that has really helped me with like my resume. So once you get into nursing school, you can apply for nursing assistant positions, because once you get like, as long as you're enrolled in a program. So that's just like another route. But if anyone has any questions, I'm happy with like you guys reaching out to me. I don't have an issue with that.
Do you guys mind putting whatever you're comfortable with, maybe your email or phone number or something in the chat? No pressure, obviously, but for students who may have particular questions about your program. Thank you so much. Gosh, I seriously can't thank you guys enough for taking your time to speak to everyone. Really appreciate it. Are there any final notes from anyone? No? Right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the meeting. I'll leave the chat open for people to take notes on people's contact information. Again, make sure that if you have any questions, Julie Garnett is our go-to resource. She knows all things, or is kind of like the final say on whether something would be valid for points for the application. Stay organized. If you have any questions, there is our peer navigating program that we're doing over Zoom that students can log into, and I believe there's a schedule for that on our website and a link in our website and then in the Instagram. And then beyond that, I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving break and is taking care of themselves, and good luck with finals. So thank you. Thank you, guys.
You guys got it.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, did some of the officers already log out? How many do I got? I got Jackson and Brooke. All right, never mind. We'll schedule.
No.
We'll do a meeting at another time.
All right. Well,
Yes.
good job, Sydney.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Good luck. I'll be texting you. I don't know. I'm sure at some point this weekend. Who knows if I remember.
Okay.
Anyhow.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.